I don't intend on making my channel a memoriam for um, artists that have passed, legend musicians that have passed. But it seems to be, um, probably seems to be like that right now because of just so many of these great artists in this last year, well, this year so far that have passed. I've already made videos to pay tribute to my father. I mean, he was a musician as well. My homie Calvin Chaos, a musician as well. Nipsey Hussle, definitely. You know, um, that's the most recent one, and it's a heavy thing because of just, man, this is some heavy stuff, man. We miss the works that they did to inspire us, you know, with their art. My dad definitely is more personal because he's my father, obviously. Um, but there's a few that I didn't get around to doing because this all happened like within the last week, and I just thought I would just give tribute to them. These four on just this video. First, starting off with this man right here. Um, this man goes by the name of Andy Anderson. He was in The Cure. Just to clarify, no, obviously not the Andy Anderson we all know to be a comedian. This is a UK musician, but he's worked with like all kinds of different people. Like I said, he was. I don't know if I mentioned that he was a drummer and percussion. Sorry about that. But he played with the group The Cure. He's most known for that. I think he was on the Japanese Whispers album, and I think there was another album that he was on. Um, Shame on me for not remembering that. But if you ever watch the video, The Butterfly, he's the one on the percussionist in the background. Um, he was also in a group that was associated with The Cure called The Glove as well. Um, he played with also Iggy Pop, um, Isaac Hayes, Hawkwind, Steve Hillage. So he was all over the place musically. If you want, I'm going to put a link to that Black History of Rock and Roll tribute that I did to him. And the funny thing is, I would actually correspond with this man. He was always cool, always answered questions, I was going to actually interview him. Um, and when I got around to asking, I think we're busy, but at the same time, because he was totally cool with it. But, it was just kind of like, I found out he got sick and I didn't want to pressure him. And, that was the last time I heard from him, but we used to correspond back and forth, man. He was a cool dude. He's definitely going to be missed. I was so happy that he actually liked what I wrote about him on my Black History of Rock and Roll tribute that I do on Facebook and Instagram, and starting to do on here more. But yeah, his drumming techniques were awesome. I mean, yeah, if you listen, I'll just put a link in the descriptions of bands that he's played in, and you guys can do your own research. But he was a great guy. Great guy, just as far as like just being the most friendly and outgoing person when it came to talking to him. No rock star attitude or anything like that. He definitely will be missed. The second one that I heard about was Rankin Roger. Man, Rankin Roger, I grew up listening to the English beat, or known as the beat in where they're from in the UK. This is them. Little close-up picture of them. They were the second wave. They were one of the bands to usher in that second wave of ska, or that two-tone era ska. Um, and then later on, he and the vocalist from the English beat went to form General Public, and this is one thing I remember because I remember watching their videos in the early 80s, both bands, but what made me remember was Rankin Rogers' hair, because he had that two-tone hair thing going. And the general public, you guys that are as old as I am might remember the song Tenderness. That was a big new wave hit back in the 80s. Man, both bands had some cool tunes. I mean, I love the English beat though a lot. I could say I like them a lot more. That song Mirror in the Bathroom is one of my favorite ska revival songs. You know, very catchy riff, kind of a spy minor riff. He was also in a punk band that I got to find out more. I don't know if they ever recorded with him, and I forgot the name of the punk band. How could I forget? Yes, the band was called the Dum Dum Boys. But I think there's another Dum Dum Boys too. I don't know if it's the same. I don't think it's the same band that he was in. I've been trying to find something by them. If anyone knows, please post on my page because he played drums for them. He's a punk rocker, man. He was also in Big Audio Dynamite with Mick Jones from The Clash. Remember those guys from like the 90s? I think they were around in the late 80s, early 90s. I wasn't really into Big Audio Dynamite, but yeah, they were kind of, those first wave of British punks. But yeah, man, Rankin Roger, like, he was rocking the toasting style, and also he had great harmony vocals when it came to singing harmony with Dave as well, and just vocals, great vocals in general. He knew how to command the audience and all that, and yeah, I need to do a Black History of Rock and Roll on him too. I have a long list, you guys, and definitely this brother is on one of them, but yeah, he passed, man, like recently, and it's sad to know. I think he had like I don't even want to talk about what he passed from, but yeah, he's definitely gonna be missed, totally. I came late into Scott Walker because of a friend of mine who turned me on to him, and I like Scott Walker's voice. He was always known for his baritone voice and um, just his epic tunes. They were all like orchestral. Then he got a little bit experimental later on, but still those were just as, I mean, and it was even more minimal. So a lot of his voice filled up those spaces, with a lot of those pieces, even though you hear just kind of very experimental, like certain noisy type stuff. It's hard to describe what Scott Walker's music is, no matter um, what era he was in. I mean, some people will call it Baroque pop, the earlier stuff, but the later stuff was definitely more experimental or avant-garde, or but he recently passed too, and it's sad, man. Like, just another voice. I'm glad that my homeboy turned me on to him. You could hear, where even David Bowie may have been influenced by him to some degree as well. Last but definitely not least is another friend of mine, a local talent, um, and DJ or selector slash toaster, by the name of Chicho Dan, also known as Anthony Cruz, or should I say Anthony Cruz, also known as Chicho Dan, or Chicho Don, you know. Dan because of his Rastafarian um, affiliation, the tribe of Dan, but he went by Chicho Don Dada at one point too. From what I didn't know that for a long time because I knew him when he was Chicho Dan, when he had dreadlocks. And of course, I would see him around, even after that, representing the city that he has on his hat, which is where I'm from, Long Beach. I knew him personally. Me and him I met him through a bunch of friends. They were a cadre of musicians, skaters, housers, um, and you know, fans of reggae, punk, and hip hop. You know, bands like Ja Children, bands like, I mean, hip hop groups like Vital Mind and Humble. Like, they all had this network of just, you know, um, musicians, man. Like, just they were all together, you know. And Anthony was a part of that collective, you know. It was really crazy, man. You know, I didn't believe, you know, I couldn't believe that he had passed, you know. Like, he was a toaster at the Dub Club and, you know, reggae clubs like Crucial. And he was in the band I Soul Jazz. I think he even did some stuff with Bad Fish. If anybody knows the brother, that's a shame that I didn't know. I knew he was involved in a lot of stuff and some of that stuff that I've seen, but I know that he's done a lot more than I'm even listing. You know, me and him, you know, we would talk every time we saw each other. And I remember him once being at the Dub Club in front of a gang of people shouting me out. Man, he shouted me out a few times, man, at a few clubs, you know, saying my name and stuff, you know, and just, man, you know, and every time we talked, we always picked up where we left off, man. I mean, that brother was a cool cat, man. I'm really sad that he's no longer with us. Very talented brother, you know, like, Chicho, you definitely will be missed, homeboy. Seriously, man, you know. Um, so what I'm gonna say to y'all is memory eternal to all these artists that have passed, you know, and I'm praying for y'all. I'm praying for your soul. I'm always praying no matter what, whether you're here or not. And memory eternal to all of you. May the Lord rest your soul. Peace.